Imagine living in a world that seems unshakable. Great kingdoms rule the land. Massive cities rise above the horizon. Merchant ships cross the seas carrying gold, copper, ivory, and luxury goods. For centuries, civilization has flourished. For those living in this age, it must have felt as though nothing could ever bring it down. But history has a habit of destroying things that seem eternal. And around 1200 BC, something happened. Something so catastrophic that entire civilizations never recovered. Cities burned, palaces collapsed, trade routes fell silent, kingdoms vanished, and across the Mediterranean, stories began to spread. Stories of mysterious warriors arriving from the sea. Nobody knew where they came from. Nobody knew why they had come. And nobody seemed capable of stopping them. They appeared suddenly. They changed the ancient world forever. And then, they disappeared. Today, we know them by a single name. The Sea Peoples. But who were they? And did they really trigger the first apocalypse of the ancient world? To answer that question, we must travel back to a world that didn't yet realize it was about to die. Before the collapse, the Mediterranean was home to some of the most powerful civilizations on Earth. Egypt dominated the Nile. The Hittite Empire ruled vast territories in Anatolia. The Mycenaeans controlled much of the Greek world. Across the sea, merchants carried resources that entire kingdoms depended on. Everything was connected, and that connection made the world strong, but it also made it fragile. A disruption in one region could affect another hundreds of miles away. At first, the warning signs were small. Harvests began to fail, droughts struck certain regions, trade became less reliable, conflicts erupted along important routes. Nothing seemed catastrophic on its own, but beneath the surface, cracks were spreading. And then the first cities began to fall. Nobody knew it yet, but an age was coming to an end, and from somewhere beyond the horizon, a mysterious force was moving toward it. Clues come from ancient Egyptian records. The inscriptions describe a terrifying enemy. An enemy unlike any seen before. Not a single kingdom, not a known empire, not a familiar rival. Instead, they speak of strange groups arriving from across the sea. Warriors, families, entire populations, moving together. To the Egyptians, these people seem to emerge from nowhere. And that is precisely what makes them so mysterious. The Sea Peoples left behind almost nothing. No empire, no royal inscriptions, no clear homeland, no written explanation of who they were. Imagine trying to identify an entire civilization using only the accounts of those who feared them. That is the challenge historians face today. The Sea Peoples are like ghosts. We can see their impact, but we cannot clearly see them. And wherever these ghosts appeared, destruction followed. One by one, great powers began to disappear. The mighty Hittite Empire collapsed. One of the strongest kingdoms of the ancient world simply vanished from history. Many Mycenaean cities were destroyed. Others were abandoned. Trade routes that had connected civilizations for centuries broke apart. Entire regions descended into chaos. To later generations, it must have seemed as if the world itself was ending. And perhaps it was. For centuries, historians blamed the Sea Peoples for everything. After all, they appeared wherever destruction occurred. But there was a problem. The evidence didn't fully fit. Some cities fell before the Sea Peoples arrived. Others collapsed for reasons that had nothing to do with invasion. The deeper researchers looked, the more complicated the mystery became. Perhaps the Sea Peoples were not the cause. Perhaps they were the consequence. But if they weren't responsible for the collapse, why did so many ancient records fear them? Eventually, the chaos reached Egypt. Unlike many of its neighbors, Egypt was still standing. But danger was approaching. The pharaoh Ramesses III knew what had happened to other kingdoms. He had seen empires disappear. He had heard stories of cities reduced to ruins. Now the threat was moving toward his borders. According to Egyptian records, entire nations had already been destroyed. The Sea Peoples were advancing south. Egypt was next. Ramesses prepared carefully. Fortifications were strengthened. Armies were assembled. Ships were positioned. Then came the confrontation. One of the most famous battles of the ancient world. The Battle of the Nile Delta. As the Sea Peoples entered Egyptian waters, they encountered a trap. Archers filled the sky with arrows. Egyptian ships closed in. The battle became chaos. According to the inscriptions, Egypt emerged victorious. The kingdom survived. The Sea Peoples were defeated, at least for the moment. But victory did not solve the mystery. In fact, it created a new one. If Egypt defeated them, why do we still have no idea who they really were? For more than a century, historians have debated a simple question. Who were the Sea Peoples? Some believe they came from the Aegean world. Others point toward Anatolia. Some suggest they were groups fleeing collapsing kingdoms. Victims of famine, victims of drought, victims of a world that was already falling apart. This theory explains something unusual. Ancient records don't only describe warriors. They describe families, children, carts, entire communities moving together. That doesn't sound like a traditional invasion. It sounds like a migration, a desperate search for survival. But even this theory leaves unanswered questions. Why were they so heavily armed? Why did they appear in so many places? And why did their arrival coincide with one of the greatest collapses in human history? Every answer seems to create another mystery. Today, many researchers believe there was no single cause for the Bronze Age collapse. Instead, multiple disasters struck at once. Drought, famine, earthquakes, economic collapse, political instability, mass migration, a perfect storm. Civilizations that depended upon one another began to fail. One kingdom collapsed, then another, then another. The entire system unraveled. The Sea Peoples may have been only one piece of a much larger disaster. Or perhaps they accelerated the collapse that had already begun. We still don't know, and that uncertainty is what makes this story so fascinating. Because the Bronze Age collapse is not merely a mystery about the past. It is a warning, a reminder of how quickly even the most advanced societies can unravel. More than 3,000 years have passed. The cities are ruins. The kingdoms are gone. The people themselves have disappeared into history. Yet the mystery survives. Archaeologists continue to dig. Historians continue to debate. New discoveries continue to emerge. But the final answer remains hidden. Somewhere beneath ancient ruins. Somewhere in forgotten records. Somewhere buried beneath layers of time. The truth may still be waiting. Silent, unseen, unfound. The Sea Peoples appeared during one of history's darkest moments. They witnessed the end of an age. Perhaps they helped destroy it. Perhaps they were victims of it. We may never know, and perhaps that is what makes the mystery so compelling. Not what we know, but what we don't. Because after more than 3,000 years, one question still echoes across the ancient world. Who were the Sea Peoples?